This low vote counting in Ecuador confirms the sound victory of Revolucion Ciudadana Movement on Sunday's election. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan confirmed death toll exceeded 900 people after a strong earthquake. China's Vice Foreign Minister Xi Feng rejected U.S. attempts to escalate tensions. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the TeleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. Ecuador's electoral body's slow counting of votes showing clearly the shift in local power. The Revolucion Ciudadana Movement is back in full swift. Preliminary data also show the no vote is winning the referendum, and although count is slowed. In some cases, there is a difference of more than 20%. Guayaquil has been one of the great surprises there. Aquiles Baez managed to defeat social Christianism with more than 70% of the votes counted. The victory seems irreversible. In 7 provinces, including Pichincha, Manabí, and Azuay, and 7 municipalities highlighted Quito, Guayaquil, and Esmeraldas.
This election day has concluded successfully, with a voter turnout of 80.74%. Given the number of ballots and in order to speed up the counting will be carried out in 2 groups. In the first group, the first ballots to be counted are for the mayoral and prefect dignities. In the second group, those to be counted are for the referendum and then for the authorities of the council, for citizens' participation and social control. Regarding the transmission of results, it will begin at approximately 7 p.m., depending on the number of candidates for the office of the mayor. The transmission of the results regarding the referendum questions will start half an hour later.
Election day in Ecuador began with the authorities' rejection of a condemnation after the murder of Omar Menendez, candidate of Citizens Revolution Movement, who was running for mayor of the town of Puerto Lopez. But not delays in setting up of the voting tables and confused at the time of voting characteristics this new electoral process. Ecuadorians went to the polls to elect more than 5,000 authorities at the national level and also rejected on the referendum proposed by President Lasso to reform the constitution on institutional security and the environment. In Peru, the executive branch, led by the appointed President Dina Boluarte, declared a state of emergency in 7 regions of the country for a period of 60 days. The measure, which mainly affects the southern region of the country, including the department of Madre de Dios, Cusco, Puno, and Apurímac, among others, was ordered through a decree published on Saturday. This comes as a response to the ongoing protests demanding Boluarte's resignation across the nation. The decree seeks to ensure the control of the country's internal order at the hands of the national police with the support of the armed forces. Social movements in the Dominican Republic held a vigil in solidarity with the Peruvian demonstrators who have been repressed by the country police and military forces. During a solidarity day in Santo Domingo, representatives of several organizations gathered in Plaza La Independencia to demand the resignation of President Dina Boluarte, early general elections, and calling for a constitutional assembly. The demonstrators also reject the multiple repression sections of the Peruvian security forces that have left more than 60 people dead since the beginning of the protests. A huge march went through the capital of Venezuela to celebrate the 31st anniversary of the military supervision of the February the 4th, 1992, led by the commander Hugo Chavez, which changed the history of the country and laid solid foundations of the revolution. The reporter with Madeleine Garcia.
They met again in the streets of Caracas with the same feeling and the same love for Hugo Chavez, who, 31 years ago, together with young soldiers, rebelled against the system that excluded 80% of the poor population.
When my commander Chavez said for now, that was the hope of the people, that people woke up.
Those who had been historically excluded woke up. They joined the revolutionary movement and humble people were seen.
February 4th means for me the rebirth of the free and sovereign feeling of our Venezuelan people.
We women were made visible, we were recognized in our work, in our struggles. Today, we have position in a lot of government trenches.
Young people who grew up in revolution recognized themselves in the anti-imperialist rebellion of February 4th, 1992, that is still alive.
A day of democracy, of freedom, of resistance, and not of resignation to the domination of foreign powers, to be able to say that today we have had another year of rebellion and another year of freedom, freedom of expression, freedom of the people, freedom that no government has, and that is what we are living today in Venezuela.
The march was a clear message to the so-called international community led by the U.S.
You see this flow of people. This is the national sentiment that they are still gathering on the 4th of February after 31 years. Let them see it. Let imperialism see it too. The living force of the people.
Because of the people's living power, 4th February was declared a day of national dignity.
What is happening was the result of that sowing. The sowing of love, the harvest, the perseverance, the struggle of conviction, the presence of Chavez everywhere is what drives the Bolivarian revolution.
It is a revolution that today is being led by President Nicolás Maduro. He has resisted Washington's attempts to overthrow him by attacking the country's economy, with the aim of suffocating the population that is still there.
10 years of experiencing, 10 years of fighting, and I'm telling you that 10 years later, I'm feeling as strong as ever, as ready as ever, and I am knowing that this nation is as strong as ever to face off disruptions, aggressions, and threats.
The brochures, where the story began in the military academies, was lost from sight, and it was a demonstration of strength.
Madeleine Garcia, TeleSUR, Caracas, Venezuela.
We'll take a very short break, but remember you can now follow us on our TikTok account as TeleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. A powerful earthquake struck in southeastern Turkey near the Syrian border, killing more than 900 people. According to the experts, this was one of the most powerful quakes in the region in the last century, while a second powerful shake hours later threatened to overwhelm rescue efforts. The magnitude 7.8 quake was followed by a second 7.7 earthquake, as rescuers in both countries were still attempting to search for survivors. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said that more than 900 people were killed, with more than 5,000 injured, and nearly 3,000 buildings have collapsed. And now shifting topics, polls closed this Sunday in Cyprus without a victory for any of the contenders, which leads the presidential elections to a second round on February the 12th. Former Cyprus Foreign Minister Nikos Christodoulias obtained more than 31% with votes, but he did not reach the necessary majority to avoid a runoff. Opposite candidate Andreas Maragianis ended in second place with more than 29% of the votes and will also be on the final ballot. On Sunday in Italy, a missing internet service outage was reported in several regions. The TIM company, one of the main internet operators in the country, said it received more than 7,500 reports of service failure early in the day. Main cities like Rome, Milan, Naples, Turin or Palermo experienced difficulties when trying to connect to the internet through a landline. Meanwhile, there were no internet glitches with mobile devices. In a press release, the company said that the incident had to do with an international interconnection problem and it dismissed the possibility of a cyber attack. In the Austrian Alps, the bodies of 5 people were located this Sunday following severe snow avalanches during the winter sports season. Among the last 4 victims is a 59-year-old man who was buried by the snow while helping to remove the defense mass of the town of Devantla. The other 3 were skiers aged 29 to 33 and a guy from 62. Further personal information of the 5th victim is unknown, although the death was confirmed in Langsvoll in Aushold Valley. For the moment, authorities have not specified the nationalities of the athletes found on Sunday. In recent years, avalanches in Austria, a major winter sport destination, have caused an annual average of 20 deaths. Russia has denounced a large-scale provocation by Ukraine in the Donbass, which accuses Moscow of war crimes. Statements issued by the Russian coordinator for humanitarian aid in Ukraine claims that Kiev is trying to prepare to control explosions at medical facilities in the Donetsk Republic. The agency said that Ukrainian special forces also intend to blow up buildings of the local narcotical and oncological dispensaries as well as the city's first hospital. According to local media, journalists from Western media have went to the city of Kramatorsk accompanied by officials from the Ukraine Security Service. And we have more news coming up after this financial break, so don't go away. Welcome back. China's Vice Foreign Minister Xi Fan on Monday urged the United States to not escalate tensions or take further actions to harm the Asian interests. This came on response of the shooting down of the Chinese unmanned airship that it was civilian in nature and entered U.S. airspace by accident. In remark to the U.S. Embassy in China, Fed added his government is closely following the development of the situation and firmly oppose and strongly protest the U.S. actions. His African leaders call for the ceasefire between the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Rwanda. The call for a ceasefire that was issued in a statement at the end of the East African Community Summit in Burundi. Tensions between Kinshasa and Kigali have risen in talks of rising violence in the Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo. Both nations accuse each other of supporting the armed rebels. In January, bilateral tensions escalated after Rwanda fired on a Congolese military plane that allegedly violated its airspace. Pope Francis concluded his visit to Africa on Sunday with an appeal to lay down arms during a mass in the capital of South Sudan. The mass marks the end of a 6-day tour for peace and reconciliation that began in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Pope Francis this birthday the Sudanese capital around 12 local time, together with the head of the churches of England and Scotland, representative of other two Christian denominations in the South Sudan, who accompanied him during the visit. The Ethiopian government said it was sending about 90 million to Tigray to help restarting banking services in the country. Prime Minister Abiy's National Security Advisor Rowan Hussein announced on Twitter that the National Bank had started to send the money to Tigray's capital. Michele for the distribution as of Monday. So on the other hand, Ethiopian Airlines was also planning to increase the number of flights to the region. Prime Minister Abiy met for the first time with Tigrayan leaders on Friday since a peace agreement was signed in Pretoria in November after a violent conflict between the federal government and the rebels in the northern Ethiopian region. In Nigeria, elections officials among biometric accreditations for voters ahead of this month's presidential and parliamentary elections. The country goes to the polls on February 25th to elect a successor to President Muhammadu Buhari. To ensure the fairness and transparency of the electoral process, the President National Electoral Commission, INEC, introduced a voter accreditation system at 2015 and 2019 polls. After a number of technical problems, INEC decided to test the system out in Lagos. Some voters were excited about the exercise had the biometrics taken by INEC officials to help improve preparations for the general elections. In South Africa, the energy crisis has worsened with blackouts of up to 10 hours, which affect every other services in the country. South Africa's Mineral Resources and Energy Minister, Gen Marenshi, said that the country's energy situation could be solved within 6 months to a year. The minister said that the Eskom electricity company, which supplies 90% of the national demand, has about 48,000 megawatts connected to the national grid. However, close to 22,000 megawatts are inactive. Constant power cuts have affected pumping stations, causing breakdowns in the water supply system and affecting many households in Johannesburg and Pretoria, two of the most populous cities in the country. We have come to the end of this brief, but you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram as well. For TeleSUR English and from the South, I'm Ana Marrero, and thank you for watching.
In a world